gentlemen, it's time! Brought to you by Ringside, the best in boxing. It's the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Introducing first, fighting out of the Zapata Brand Studio in Berwick, Pennsylvania. He is an expert in boxing and bagels, George Zapata!
Hey guys, welcome to the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast, brought to you by Ringside. Go to ringside.com/podcast, and you too can get up to 40% off selected brands. Well, it is fight week, and May 3rd, CES MMA 77 is my next guest, Charles Boston Strong Rosa, set to take on Josh Harvey at the main event for the CES Lightweight Championship of the World. Charles, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. Just back up at my home in Seabrook, New Hampshire, my family house. I flew in from Florida a few days ago. So just getting here for fight week, getting ready to roll.
And where are you training right now?
I train in American Combat Gym, so this is the gym I got. I've been loyal to my day one coach, Charles Chainsaw McCarthy. He was a UFC veteran himself, fought The Ultimate Fighter, and I used to train American Top Team for like 10, 12 years. But once COVID happened, some changes happened with the branding of the thing, and I stuck with my coach, Charles McCarthy, and he opened up American Combat Gym. So I'm still friendly with everyone from American Top Team and all the gyms in the area, but I'm doing my own thing, and it's going really well.
Now, in Florida, there's a majority of the MMA gyms that don't go that either are there, rather successful, and you
Yep.
are no less that. And this Friday, you were at Foxwoods Casino. They're
Yep.
fighting for the lightweight championship of CES MMA. Tell me a little bit about the promotion and how you got started into that.
Yeah, CES, man, has been awesome to me. I've been friends with the Birchfields. I grew up in Peabody, Massachusetts. I went to school in Providence, Rhode Island. So primarily the CES shows were, based out of New England. So they were the biggest promotion outside of the UFC in New England at the time. And obviously when you make your professional debut as a fighter, you have to kind of build yourself up the ranks. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just hop right into the UFC or top in the top promotions. And that was one of them. I feel like I was a big ticket seller for that area and the time. And a kind of a crazy quick story is when I was going to school at Johnson and Wales, I was living in Federal Hill in Providence, Rhode Island. I would walk by this place, Constantino, is a really well-known Italian place, and this is before I ever trained, ever fought. I was just a hockey player, just in college, probably 18, 19 years old. I walked by and I saw a picture on the wall, and it was, CES. It must have been CES 1 or 2 or 3 or one of the first posters ever, and it was two guys, and it had a phone number, and it said, like, looking for fighters, and I called, and I was like, oh, I want to fight on this, and this is before I ever trained a day in my life. And I don't know who I talked to. I asked Pat about it. He doesn't remember Pat Sullivan, the promoter. He doesn't know the conversation, but they're like, okay, what's your manager's name? I'm like, I don't have a manager. Like, what gym you train on? I'm like, I don't train. I'm a street fighter. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you. They never call me back. Crazy story. 4 years later, after 4 or 5 years later, after I started training on making my professional debut, I was on that picture. I was on that same exact spot. Actually, it might have been 7 or 8 years later because it was a whole amateur career and a pro career. Once I moved to Florida, started training that exact same spot. Like 7 years later, I was the main event on that poster, and I just think that's a pretty cool story.
It's amazing how things come full circle.
Yeah, it's
I hear
unreal.
do the podcast, and for years I used to buy all my equipment from Ringside, and never in a million years ever think Ringside would sponsor a show that I was doing here. But what's something you mentioned that I wanted to get a point on. Most people say when they say fighters, they say, "Oh, got to be fighters, come from the street, bad background." You went to Johnson and Wales and got a degree in culinary.
Yeah.
Are you still a chef?
Yeah, I worked at Cut 432 for 10 years throughout my whole amateur career. Even when I was still fighting in the UFC, I still worked there. I mean, obviously I was working full time, like 60 hours a week as an amateur, and when I wasn't at the work, I was at the gym. But once I made my pro debut and was fighting for CES, and then fought in the UFC, I was pretty much got to make my own schedule. As Chef Tony there really helped me out at Cut 432. It was really five-star nice restaurant, and they let me kind of make my own schedule so I could come in, and they supported my career. They sponsored me for my fights, so it worked out well. Luckily I had some good people surrounding me.
And that's important to have a good support staff behind you. So let's
Yeah.
take this to Friday night here, May 3rd, over at Foxwoods there, because in Connecticut, that is where you're originally in that area from your so I'm sure the
Yeah,
ticket
New
sales are
England,
going to be great. World title fight here. What do you know about Josh Harvey? What can you tell us?
Yeah, it's gonna be a sold out show. Josh Harvey, man. I mean, they offered me. I mean, that's the guy they offered me, and there was a couple other guys. I let my coaches and my coach Charles McCarthy kind of handle it, and they were looking for somebody, but Pat Sullivan has a lot of pride. He goes, "Hey, listen, man, we're fight. This is a world title fight. Like this is we got to fight the best guy in New England." You know what I'm saying? Like Josh Harvey is 8 wins, 2 losses. And he's fought some of the best guys. He's probably the best fighter from Maine right now that's active. So I'd say he's the top ranked lightweight in the world from Maine, and he's one of the top prospects, and he's a wrestler, wrestled in college, I believe, and that's pretty much the most I know about him. He fought he won a fight on the Dana White, looking for a fight contender series, so. I mean he's tough, formidable opponent, but he's going in there with he's going in there with the best. I'm undefeated in New England, undefeated in my hometown, and I can't wait to go put him away and win the world title.
Well, even though you're now, I would say Florida is your residence at this point.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is your home. This is your home.
Yeah.
Now he is one, but he's from Maine, so he's coming into there. You believe you'll be the crowd favorite at least at coming here?
Oh, there's no doubt, man. I think it's a sold out show. It's gonna be a sold out show. Fight night. I got all of Rosa Nation with me, man. I've already sold over 150 T-shirts for this fight, so I think all those people, and we've sold over 100 tickets. So, I think, yeah, that's just me. Never mind the people that just go on to
Right.
Foxwoods and get them and put my code Rosa in or whatever, however they do it. But I'm just saying, like, out of my mom basically had tickets. She's like, people keep calling. I don't know what to do. We don't have any more. I'm like, well,
Well,
maybe they
that's
could
good
show
for
up.
you.
Hopefully,
That's good for you financially, and the fact that you're in Florida, but you still have a name here. That's
yeah,
very good for your career, especially because CES is located where they're at.
yes, no, for sure.
Well, let's talk. Let's just switch gears a little bit, and then we'll get back to you train you have pupils that are down there in Florida. One of them being Mr. G, George Smiley,
Yes, yeah.
friend of the show. And it's funny because when we talk, there's people there are people that'll go back and forth in the comments and say, he's 66 years old. What's he doing? What I tell them is, you do know who trains him? Charles Rosa. Charles, what can you tell me about George?
Man, George is a stand-up guy, man. I absolutely love him, man. He comes in, he's probably the oldest guy that comes in and trains and is serious about fighting. I have some guys that I train for self-defense, some guys I train for different reasons, to boost their confidence. But George comes in and he tells me, I want to fight. This is what I want to do. And he's very confident that he can beat these guys. And man, like, there's a couple things that I have him coming in and like I'm like, okay, we'll work the bag. And he always wants to work harder. And that's like my favorite thing about him. Usually you'd have to hold back on somebody 60 plus years old. You're like, you got to kind of make it a little bit elementary, the training, like, okay, well, today we're just gonna do this or that. But man, I say we're gonna grab the 10-pound ball, pick it up, slam it, sprawl, shadow box, go to the bag. We do circuits. He's like, oh, I want the 100-pound ball. I'm like, dude, I can't even pick up the 100-pound ball. He's like, no, that's the one I want. And we go gets it, and he's slamming it, and he's working really hard. And that's something, for me, I don't think I've ever told him this, but for me, it's like an inspiration to look at someone like that, that's his age and is able to, still have such a passion and a love for the sport and to do what he loves and still comes in, he puts in the work. And I'm sure, his body hurts some days and I'm sure stuff like that. But if I look at him, if I'm having a hard day in the gym, I'm like, man, I'm on, 3 days training camp, I'm dieting, I'm doing this. And then I see him come in the gym with the energy he has. I go, man, I have no excuses. This guy's 67 years old. He's coming in, he's putting in the work he's doing the same type of circuits that I'm doing. Like, I have no excuse, man. It just gives me extra boost of confidence. So it helps me probably just as much as I help him.
And what do you take out of that when you're seeing a guy like that do something on that? And I'm saying it on that level because he's getting trained by some of the best. Your gym, tremendous fighters there, from the head coach down to you, to everybody. So, what do you take out of that, personally for yourself, when you're seeing him train and putting the work in? And are you ever worried about someone at that age doing that? And I'm not,
Yeah,
age
no,
shaming anyway.
no, 100%. Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is when he tells me, like, oh, I want to fight this guy, this, I'm like, well, listen, just like in everything, just like when I have a guy who's his first day, who's never trained before, this 18-year-old kids come in and they say, man, I want to fight. And I'm like, listen, we can, how long is it going to take? What's this? And I go, well, realistically, we could put you against, a guy that works at Walmart that's never trained a day in his life, and that would be fine. So but with someone like George, if we could find somebody that is his age and, his skill level and stuff like that, and that, I think it would be the best case scenario. Like, you obviously can't put him in there with like a guy that's fighting in the UFC or something. It's just, it doesn't. Even though he would do it. That's the thing about him.
Yeah.
He's a madman. Like, he'll do whatever I said. Like, you fighting this guy, like, you could put him against friggin' the champion of the world. You put him against Brock Lesnar, he's gonna fight the guy, and that's why I respect him so much. But that's a job as a coach and a job as a trainer, is to be able to protect your guys and make sure you put him in there. That's a fair fight, and that's, if he does end up doing this and we get to do it, I think that's the number one priority, is safety and being able to do it against somebody that is, it's a fair fight. That's someone that's his, weight class, his size, because that's, I definitely don't, want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, this is the hurt business, and this fighting is a tough thing. So, but he's asking me to help him get ready and have him train hard, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm training him like a fighter. I just, as far as, I'm not exactly the manager, don't know what he's gonna do, but I'm sure there's other guys out there that are willing to scrap, and you just got to find him the right guy.
And that would be most likely at the Masters level, the Masters
Yes,
division.
yeah, yeah. They do that in ringside, and that's, I think, a perfect
Yes.
example. Like, you guys are sponsored by ringside. It must be very nerve wracking when ringside. My uncle told me, "Hey, man, there's this guy that's 70 years old that's still fighting in the ringside tournaments." He's told me stories about other legends in the ringside tournaments, and I'm like, so it's something you guys are familiar with. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, and what I want to quickly turn to that right now. Your uncle, Tom the Bomb Rosa, a legend in
Yeah.
the Masters division, legend in the Tough Man contest. What can you tell me about Tom?
Man, I was just with him last night. We watched the Bruins game. We watched them win, so
The
we were on the
Bruins.
couch. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
jeez.
Oh
You
God,
knocked,
what are you?
you
What are
knocked
you?
us out of the playoffs. You knocked us out of
Yeah.
the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that, but yeah, we were watching them last night, and man, Tom the Bomb Rosa for me is the one of the he's literally my favorite person. He's my uncle. He's iron to me. Like, he raised me since I was a little kid. He would take me on trips and always do good things for me. Buy me ice cream from when I was a little kid. Take me on trips to Six Flags in different places. Disney, he brought me trips to Disneyland, like things
Mhm.
that I didn't, sometimes I couldn't do myself. He let me live at his house in high school
Right.
when I was getting into a lot of trouble, and had some trouble times. And he's the one person that has, I feel like, in my whole life, that has never, like, given up on me with when I was going through tough times. And he's a person that I really feel like has inspired me a lot. And to see him still go do these and
Yeah.
crazy story is when my first fight I ever went to, like, boxing match thing, when I was about, I think, 13, 14 years old. I went to the Tough Man competition at Foxwoods. I remember sitting, like, one of the front rows and got to watch Tommy fight in the Tough Man competitions. And he was fighting 2 or 3 times a night. They had little pamphlets of books with the guys and all their
Yeah.
stats, and I still have it in my safe downstairs. And it's just one of the, so since I was a kid, I was looking up to my uncle and his fighting. And I think that's when I moved to South Florida and I changed my life. Like, the reason I walked into what I thought was a boxing gym, like, I thought I was going to do a boxing gym the first time I ever trained. I was like, I want to go box. And it was, whatever, Gracie God, whatever you call it, was a mixed martial arts gym. But it was because of my Uncle Tommy. Like, I was like, what? I'm done playing college sports. Like, what am I going to do? And I found mixed martial arts, but it was all because I looked up to my Uncle Tommy when I was a little kid. And, man, he's the toughest man I know. He's still crushing. He's still fighting. He's telling me he's fighting in a couple weeks. And,
Oh yeah, he
you
is.
know, guy that's helped me a lot in my life.
I know Tom through Sean. I don't know him personally, but I know of
Yeah.
him through the
He's
Masters.
shot and fawn a bunch of times too.
Yeah. I think five.
Oh
And he
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
fought recently. Very well respected and a great guy. And one of the things that he is involved in, as you are too, is the Chuckies Fight. That
Yes.
is and could you tell our audience what it exactly is? Because it's a
Yes.
great cause. It's a great
Yep.
organization. And right there, I have on there on the screen there about chuckiesfight.com. They can go there to help and put something together for you. What is it and what do you do for that?
Yeah, so Chucky's Fight is a charity that's helped dedicated to knockout substance abuse. when I was 16 years old, and the following year when I was 17, I lost my two older brothers, Dominic and Vincent, to drug overdoses. And after that, you can imagine. I think that's what makes me a fighter. Everyone's like such a nice kid, man, but it's, everyone has that fire, that type of past that kind of gives them that extra push and
Right.
fire when they're fighting or training. And you go to a dark place when you fight, that. And yeah, so basically after that happened, like my dad was jumping in the ocean every day because that's where we put their ashes. And we live up in Boston, New Hampshire area, and it's freezing. The water some days in the wintertime it's 0 degrees. Literally, like it's like 30 degrees here. It's freezing.
Oof.
Every morning my dad would go. That was his way. I feel like of just kind of getting peace and just visiting my brothers on his own. And somebody said, "Oh, why don't you do something with that?" And he's like what? And at that time, after it passed, he was going to high schools, talking to kids and dangers of substance abuse, just kind of on his own. But basically, we started the charity Chuckies Fight, a charity to help dedicated knockout substance abuse. And basically, we started raising money to get adults and people in the treatment centers that didn't have the funds to do so, because not everybody has insurance, not everybody have the funds. And they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, helped tons of people. And on top of it, we've helped educate teens on substance abuse. So we go to high schools, I go to schools, treatment centers, anything. I mean, I've even done stuff with the military where I go, train them, and I give them dog tags because they have a lot of issues with suicide and mental health issues and addiction issues. So it goes full circle, and I think everybody in the planet knows somebody or a family member, friend, cousin, or somebody that has struggled with these type of problems. So it's something that I feel like helps everybody. We got these little dog tags that I give people. I'll be sure to send you one. Just kind of give people something like physical they can look at to maybe help them make the right choice. You never know. Maybe that one day they decide to make the right choice and not the wrong thing. It could save somebody's life, and I'm sure it has many people.
Look, can I ask you a personal question about that?
Yes, of course.
Okay. How did you cope with that?
That was the tough part. I mean, that when I was 16 and 17 years old, I was able to luckily go to college and stuff like that. And by the skin of my teeth, was able to graduate and get a degree. But yeah, I mean, you know how college is. Sometimes a
Yeah.
lot of parties, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of things. And I feel like that's how I coped with it. So, luckily, by the grace of God for myself, I was able to go to Florida, change my lifestyle, and I found the mixed martial arts gym. And when I was able to do that, man, like I think that's it. I think mixed martial arts saved my life.
Well, as you know, we are sponsored by Ringside, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a donation to Chucky's Fight, and those
Oh,
there can make a donation there, chuckiesfight.com. We'll make a donation, and we will send that over to you and your foundation
oh wow,
after the
thank you.
podcast is over. We appreciate everything you've done because that helps us. Because one of the other things that we do have an addiction problem on this side of the tracks, so they say
Yes.
we are not all wealthy and whatever.
Yeah.
And in our area, it is a very rural area, and I'm sure you guys help throughout the entire country as
Yep.
well. But let's not end it on a bad note. You
Yeah.
are fighting there May 3rd, CES 77 MMA, May 3rd, 2024. The main event. My guest right here, well, not Josh, not Josh Harvey. My guest is Charles Boston Strong Rosa, and he'll be the main event against Josh Harvey there. What can we expect, Charles, in your fight?
Oh man, you can expect me to go home with a belt. That's simple. I'm gonna do whatever I have to do. This is a 5 round, 5 minute round, 5 minute round fight, world title fight. 155 pounds. So I'm dieting down now. I'm working hard. But man, this is my dream. My dream is to become a world champion. I didn't get into this just to be a fighter, just to be this. I came here to be the best, and I get to prove that Friday night. I get to go shine at Foxwoods, the place where I get to see my uncle Tom the Bomb fight. And man, like I said, I get to shine bright under the lights at Foxwoods. The wonder of it all. Let's go.
Is it crazy that you're fighting in Foxwood, where you're that area where you're from and stuff?
Dude, it's mind blowing to me. That's how I know like the way things work in the world. Things happen for a reason. I don't know how things work always, and I don't figure it out. But things come full circle sometimes, and they always and it's just sometimes things when they happen at first like they don't make any sense. But
Mhm.
sometimes in the future things always come back around, and like, well, I guess that's why that happened. And
Yeah, and I
and
agree
I
with
get
you.
to be here now.
I really do. Well, Charles, please give out all your social media so people can find and where they can get tickets to CES 77.
Oh, for sure. You guys can get tickets. Actually, you guys can direct message me on Instagram, Charles Rosa MMA. You guys can check me on there. Follow me. I'm posting daily training videos and stuff like that, updates, jumps in the ocean, Chuckies Fight, things like that. Also food, the fighter diet, Chef Rosa stuff. So you guys can get food, fighting, and the coolest things, my two favorite things. But you guys can catch me on there, same as Twitter, Charles Rosa MMA. And yeah, if you guys want to check out Chucky's Fight, go to chuckiesfight.com and check out the link. If you can make a donation, sure, it'll go to somebody good and it'll help somebody. And man, it's all for a good cause. So otherwise, if you guys can't tune in, if you guys can't come to Foxwoods and you can't make it to the fight, which not everybody is local, I'm sure you guys tuning in, it's going to be streamed live on Fight TV. It's a FITE TV, Triller TV, same one Canelo Alvarez and those guys fight on. So it's a really good link, works really well. I'll also have that on my Instagram, so you guys can tune in through media if you want to watch it on that. Pretty easy to use.
Well, Charles, let me tell you, you come from good stock. I know your uncle, and I've through the circuit, I know your uncle, and you come from good stock. Your mom and dad, very, very good people. What they do for the foundation, and not only that, they support you and how they support you. It has been an honor here to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you for a little bit. I met you a few years ago up in Scranton when Tom was fighting. You were kind of in the mix there. People were all over you getting autographs and what have you. So I kind of stayed away. I didn't want to bother you.
Nah, man, I'm friendly. Oh, but always come say hi if you ever see me. But yeah, I'm definitely approachable. And man, thank you for having me on this show, and thank you so much for this donation. I think it really goes to a lot. My dad spends a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time trying to help people with all these issues, and it definitely goes to a good cause. And I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Anytime we can help out, let my brother know, or go call Mr. G, and we'll get in contact. We can get you on any kind of promotions you want to. If you need promotion or whatever, we'll get you on here. We really enjoy having you on.
You're the man. I consider you a friend now, so I appreciate it. It's great to meet you. Great to do this interview, and definitely tune in Friday night, May 3rd, and watch me win this world title.
There it is. It'll be Friday night, May 3rd, CES 77, Charles Boston Strong Rosa taking on Josh Hook Harvey, live at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.